Hello, hello. Welcome to See. Here's the Deal. I'm your host, Marc, and I have a very fun guest for today's episode, Sam Martin.
Hello, Mark. Hello, Mario. I'm sitting in Mario's seat, I heard.
You are definitely sitting in Mario's seat, although Mario's graciously given up his seat for like 3 consecutive episodes now, which means that we're overdue to get Mario back in this chair.
No offense, none taken.
It's a pleasure to have you here, Sam.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I just to give everyone a little background, I met Sam in 2018.
I don't know, but you came over to the house. It was an unexpected, great time.
I think it was either late 2018 or early 2019. I made a trip out west, and it's funny that you mentioned going to your house because I had like 35 meetings with potential investors that whole time, that trip, and a lot of people wanted to meet at restaurants, coffee shops, whatever. And you were just like, come to my house. And I was like, oh, this guy either lives in a mansion or he's super welcoming, And man, I was blown away. I was blown away by how close you were with your family. I've told you this before, but one of the most memorable things for me was sitting in your studio and your kids had some toys left out. And I was like, oh, does that bother you? And you were like, no. Like, you looked at me like I was crazy. You were like,
good feeling.
Yeah. You're like, if it's not for the kids, like, what's this all about?
Serious.
So that was our first meeting.
Wow. Yeah. You mentioned that before. I remember. Yeah. I have no memory of that myself, but I believe you because I just remember just enjoying our conversation. But man, because I didn't know what to expect. The person that introduced us, I never know what's going to happen with this guy. And in comes this guy, Mark, with a C. And I have no idea what's going on. And man, I just really enjoyed our initial conversation and basically every conversation since. I can't remember like an uncomfortable conversation. I was like, oh man, that Mark, I really don't like him.
We did become fast friends. It was like super natural. And as I said, for me, that whole trip, I'm like going from meeting to meeting to meeting, and
we lasted a while. I must have messed up your following.
Well, that's the thing, right? In LA traffic, it's like I'm going from here, I'm going from, I remember, I think it was the same day that I met you. I ended up on the on the pier,
Santa Monica,
Santa Monica
or
pier.
That Malibu.
Yeah, the Santa Monica pier, and just navigating through. I'm from Oklahoma. Navigating through this city is so different.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Navigating through that city,
super dope.
So Sam, why don't you tell, for people watching that don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself, tell a little about what you do and who you are.
Well, to make it quick, I ended up in pop music, even though I thought I was not a pop guy. Never thought I would write. My 16-year-old self would be ashamed of some of the songs I've written. But I'm trying to get that back so that my 16-year-old self would be like, that was cool.
By the way, your friends are not ashamed at some of the songs you've written.
No, I'm proud of actually, it's deeper than just, isn't it nice to have a worldly success in any capacity? But actually, I kind of look at it differently now because, just a side note, as usual, I'm one of the big songs that had done very, very well was a song called "Want to Want Me" by Jason Derulo, and I remember I had my first child was born as my son, and I'm looking at my new son, and the song had just come out, and it was had broken the record for the most radio ads in history.
Oh wow!
Part of that has to do with the consolidation of all the radio stations, but nevertheless, it was the most added to radio in history. I mean, the Beatles would have beat that, and so was that. But we had the record, and I'm like, not only do I have a new son, but I know that I'm going to be able to pay for his life. So it's this great relief, because if you know a musician does not have a salary usually,
right,
and doesn't have a dependable income source. So
and as we've talked about, some of the songs that you think are going to be major hits turn out to flop, and then some of the songs you're like, oh, whatever. It's
yes, a lot of those. I mean, a lot of stories where I've missed it or thought something and it didn't happen. So I've definitely been humbled by the process and the results. But I'm sitting there, and I remember how I think of the success of music has actually transformed as with the addition and the size of my family growing. So I remember I'm sitting down with Jason Derulo, and after the success, and we're working on another song, and I looked at him and I said, hey, just so you know, like, I'm so thankful for all the work you put into your career that allowed for me to deliver a song to you that was able to be inserted into an already successful career and then exploded. And then I got to benefit from so much of the work that you've done. And basically you're feeding this collaboration between us has fed my family, housed my family, and gave us security in a way that, I probably couldn't have imagined.
Has anyone ever thanked him for something like
I don't think so. I don't think anyone, and I did that once for Adam Levine as well, and he didn't respond. and I did like an email on that one. And I remember I was talking to one of his closer friends, and I said, hey, did I offend him or something? Like, because I was thanking him like from the bottom of my heart for taking this great song to market and having it do so well. And she said, oh, he appreciates it. He just has no idea how to handle that.
Well, I mean,
And I've come. That's a big point that I can make later. But yeah,
I think learning how to accept compliments is hard for everybody.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I was actually on the phone with my rabbi last night, and he said something. We were talking about a community issue in Oklahoma City. And I made a comment, and he started, complimenting me, and I quickly changed the subject real quick, and he called me out 5 seconds. And he goes, oh, you don't take compliments well. I remember, I know that about you.
No, yeah,
and it's like, who does?
Yeah, it is hard to be like,
right.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree.
You're like, it feels good to hear someone say something good about you, and you smile, but you're like, okay, so let's talk. What are we talking about next?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There is I feel similar in a lot of ways. It's like, great, yeah, thanks, man. But it is encouraging that you're on a path that's good.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I like about it. If someone compliments you, you're like, you can make that real quick if you want. You don't have to elaborate. It just gives me a little boost that like I'm not crazy.
Well, I think
that's about it.
Over graciousness is something that was easy for you and I. Right?
Yeah.
Because neither of our lives were guaranteed to go the way that they have, and so being waking up every day with a mindful attitude that like we should thank people around us.
Yes,
I think it's a little different.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. You're right.
No,
You're totally right on that.
Well, I mean, I honestly like this will completely derail, but I have taken it hopefully step further and further with my children too, because we'll say like. Some people pray at the dinner table, and we're down with that, of course. But sometimes I'll go like, hey, how did this food get here? And my sons they've started to catch the lesson. They'll go like, well, who should we thank? And they're like, well, thank Mom for doing this and thank this. And I said, well, where'd the food get to the supermarket? And they said, well, there were truck drivers that drove the food to the truck. I always thank the truck drivers. And they go, well, where was the food before that? It was on a farm. We should thank the farm. Well, look how much work the farmers do to get the food to grow. They got to fight the bugs and all that. And then you go all the way, well, how does the food grow? It's like a magical life force power that we would call God or, and that.
I was actually just thinking that, by the way.
And so then you go, well, shoot, you thank everyone down the line. You're sitting there for an essay and you never get to your food. So we don't do it very often. But we want to make sure that, oh my gosh, we can't grow the food. We can't. We don't herd the cows. We don't do anything. We don't drive the food to the supermarket. We don't know what they need or when they have diseases. We are completely stand on the shoulders of a mountain, an army of people who don't get thanked for what they do, and they're just trying to make their lives work. So that's
even when you get to a supermarket setting, I mean, like one of the things I've tried to not take for granted is how everybody in our life, even for people that for the people that work at Whole Foods, they put time and effort into making sure that our shopping experience is easy.
Yeah. So
it's like, and you think about all these small things in your life that might add 10 seconds here, 10 seconds here, a minute there. But for someone like you, when you're creative, a minute here and a minute there could be the difference between.
Very true.
I mean, it's important enough for guys like me and Mario. Like, we'd love to have an extra couple minutes, but for you can accomplish something in a couple minutes that, like,
unfortunately, that's an overwhelming. It's totally true, but if you think of it that way, you would be like have anxiety attacks because it is true. I mean, my initial, I had no success, worldly success. I had little signs that maybe it was worth doing. People encouraged me growing up, and I had sold CDs and people bought them, and the whole town was playing my. So I had like little reasons to think, but it was so riddled with failure after failure after failure. But there was always that little like, you should do this. I had given up on music at one point, and I said I have a wife now. I can't just go down my hobbies, favorite, and bring us into just being completely broke, over my hobby. And I'm like, I don't think it's a hobby, but man, I gotta figure something out to make money. I'm sitting in the with scrubs and trying to sell like pea cups to doctors for like a royalty. And the guy next to me goes, "What are you doing here?" Because he went to my concert, and he's like, "What are you doing in scrubs selling pea cups to doctors, trying to get in on this thing?" And I was like, I can't figure it out with music. I just can't. I love music, but I've got. He's like, you should not be here. And I was like, I'm here, okay? Just leave me alone, And then in the scrubs, I actually got my phone call. It was my lucky break. I was in scrubs, and I got a call like, is this Samuel Martin? And I was like, yes. And he's like, I'm looking for Sam Martin. Anyway, it ends up being the biggest connection of my life, and it's I hung up. I said, "Hey, you sound like a, can I call you back?" It sounded crazy, and it ended up being the moment. And anyway, but where were we headed with that? So I'm brought into this world of music for this my lucky break, and I'm trying so hard to write music for this company that has the gateway to all the stars in Hollywood and music. I'm sending stuff in and nothing's happening. And finally I go to bed one night sort of frustrated, and my wife, I go to bed, I wake up with a melody in my head, and it sounded like pop music to me, which I actually just sounded like Blink-182. But like I thought, that's pop. I was so bad at pop music, And so I go to the piano at like 2 a.m. or whatever it was, and I put on this little digital tape recorder thing, and I sing the beginning of what becomes Daylight, which is a and it's not that good actually. It's the most boring part of the song, but
it turns out to be Daylight.
But it's the start of an idea that to me had fooled me into saying this just sounds like pop. So I wake up in the morning and I say, that does sound like pop more than I've ever done. So let's, and I just sat back on the other piano. I had these 2 given to me pianos. They were like crappy old pianos, and I start playing. And in 45 seconds, I swear to you, maybe a minute and a half, it was the pre-chorus, the chorus, and what would be most of the post-chorus written in 45. Just as however long it was is how long it took to write it. And I even said the word daylight accidentally.
So while I'm
on the chords,
conceptualizing the melody,
I accidentally said daylight.
Daylight.
Some people are very good at that. They'll say the lyric while they're writing the melody, and you're like, okay. And to me, that's exceptionally high level, gifted channeling, spiritual gifting. And most people are probably stronger at one or the other, which is kind of me. I'm more of the melodic guy. Some people are just like full on lyric.
By the way, I might have made this comment to you when we were getting together in Malibu.
Oh yeah.
What was that, like 2 years ago at this point?
Yeah, sure.
It was. But I'm a big William Faulkner fan. I studied Faulkner in college, and he has one of the great works of literature that he did was a 3-part story called the Snopes trilogy. And he was once asked how he could create this whole world, and it was specific to the Snopes trilogy. And he responded that he saw the whole thing like a lightning storm in the sky.
Whoa!
And it flashed all at once.
He got it.
And then he said afterwards he was left kind of trying to put together the Flash. You know, what he had seen all at once. The next part of his journey was putting that together.
I mean, I literally researched this because it changed my life. The lightning flash, the dream, and I found that Paul McCartney had the same thing happen with Yesterday. You find that Tesla had the same thing with the alternative current motor that caused the electrical that beat out Edison for the how to distribute electricity. He saw it in a dream, a daydream or a dream. John Lennon had taken 8 hours to try to write a song, trying to compete with Paul and all that, and he gave up and then laid down, heard the lyrics, the harmonies, and everything to Nowhere Man, and just was like, whoa, and he put it down, and that was exactly the song. So you'll find that, like, my favorite quote, one of them was, right before John Lennon dies, he has an interview, and in this interview he says that they're saying, oh, Yoko's like, you are a fast writer. You're very fast. You know, he's like, yeah, I'm a fast writer. It kind of comes. Sometimes they come so quickly that I say, am I even allowed to say I wrote it? Because it just came right through me. And that's how I feel at the best times, because it's so ridiculous how it flows. And sure, you grew up with this music and all this. And I could go even a step deeper, which is, I don't think we even choose what we resonate with. So if I play you a Pink Floyd song and then I play you a classical song, you may just love the classical song and not really know why you didn't love Pink Floyd as much as I did, or whatever. And what I noticed is that was the same for me. I didn't figure out that Michael Jackson was a genius until I was 28. But I liked his songs, but I loved immediately John Lennon, Pink Floyd, but I was just drawn to it. And you could say, oh, it's the culture, it's the this, and it is parts of it, but there's, at the end of the day, why this and not this?
You know, Sam, we were laughing when we went to Woodland Oaks this morning.
Yeah.
One of the properties that Sam's partnered with us in.
We'll get there.
We'll get there later.
Yeah.
But we were laughing about where this conversation could take us.
Immediately in the wrong direction.
I would say in the right direction, but I'm gonna say something deeply personal.
Go ahead.
Which is when you said the line from John Lennon.
Yeah.
You know, whether we believe it, there are people that believe in God. There's people that believe in this spiritual force or in this force of nature.
Sure.
But I have a story from the rabbi in Malibu, who I was sitting at his Shabbat table, and we were all talking about whatever we were talking about at the table on a Friday night. And somebody asked me, oh, you're in real estate. How do you know when the right time to buy or sell is? Mm. And I said, oh, I made a joke like, oh, well, you never know. But if I've learned anything from our ancestors, the longer you hold on to real estate, the better in general. And I thought that was a nice answer, right?
Yeah.
The rabbi quickly stopped me and he said, only God knows when the right time to sell is. And It was a humbling response.
I agree.
It was a response that to some people might have pissed them off. Mm. If I was
sure.
And I think that there's so much wisdom to you see true geniuses, John Lennon being one of them.
Sure.
And what they're describing, even if they're not using the word God, even if they're not using whatever spiritual word might appeal to somebody watching, listening, whatever.
Sure.
We're all talking about the same phenomenon.
Oh yeah.
And it's for those of us that have a belief in God, we say it's clear as day, it's God.
Yeah.
What gave John Lennon, he's right, by the way.
Yeah.
Because we all talk about, there's the concepts that everything in our life is just a pass through for God or for the next generation or for spirituality or whatever it is. And John Lennon's just putting that into words, right? That's
100%.
Is it even me writing it? It's just such a powerful thought.
Because I elaborate on that because it's more fantastic, I think, and more mysterious than we can even put into words. But
I know. I think that when you said earlier that if you and I let our conversations go unabridged,
we're gonna end up
for 48 hours.
We could.
I think we're 2 hours talking about that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we can move on, I guess.
There's one thing I wanted to ask you
go ahead. Yeah.
About specifically. Yeah. And as you know, because I've said it to you for years, it is one of the things that I find most I mean, I definitely look up to you and admire you for is your relationship with your family.
Okay.
So
Love talking, man.
you've written 2 songs that I'm thinking of in particular.
There's more, but yes.
I'm sure that there's more. Right, this is why I said it like that.
Yeah, no, you're very
I'm not putting you into a box here.
No, yeah.
But so for people who aren't familiar with Sam, he's super humble, right? And he's talking about songs that he's written. But you have one of my favorite albums of all time, Alpha Omega. I love it.
That's amazing. You're so.
When I first got to know Sam, actually, I'd send him pictures of like screenshots of me listening to Alpha Omega.
Cut that.
I
had
definitely don't cut that.
No, we're not cutting that. I'm gonna reoccurring.
So obviously you know where I'm going with this.
Sure. Well, I have a specific question.
Can you talk a little bit about what it feels like to write a song like My Blue-Eyed Joy, or what it feels like to write a song like the song to your unborn son? Or was it unborn child?
Unborn son, yeah.
Unborn son.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I complete goosebumps, I think, on both. Had to be. Just a shocking. The way I would put it is I spent my initial musical taste and my initial musical writings were always deep and profound and questioning. And I was very young, so I was a high school kid, and then I was a college kid, and I had no experience with family and love and all that, more than just my immediate family. And growing up, and then I got swept into pop music, which is super shallow. So the only artists that actually accept outside music from other people who are not themselves are usually, unfortunately, not that deep themselves. So they don't really want to sing or won't even sound genuine if they sing a genuine lyric from Bob Dylan or from John Lennon or something. So
you're saying that not everyone can sound like Jimi Hendrix doing all Bob Dylan's all on Watchtower.
You can't cover a song if you don't have the depth in yourself. And there's so much there. Like Ray Charles, the best quote is, if there's no tears in the writer, there's no tears in the listener. I don't might have butchered that, but that's a good point regardless. But the point is, you must feel what you're gonna sing yourself so deeply that there's a percentage of the listeners will maybe feel what you were feeling when you wrote it. And that's deep, and that's the pleasure of my life on the career side, is getting those moments where my goosebumps are off the charts and you might or might not feel the goosebumps that I definitely felt.
I think knowing your love story with Joy,
I'll get to that. Yeah.
It's easy to feel those goosebumps. But I would imagine that anybody who has ever or will ever listen to a song to my unborn son, that song, you get goosebumps on that.
More universal.
You don't have to know you.
Yeah.
You don't have to know. You feel that. I think just any human being listens to that. Can feel that on a personal level. I mean, at least from I guess I can't. I guess I'm not an expert in human beings enough to say it like that. But you get what I'm
I know what you mean. Yes, sometimes you strike a chord that just hits a big emotion that humans feel in general.
I think it's such a cool thing about Alpha Omega, is that you have some pop hits. You have,
attempts.
Right. I mean, hey, one of the songs was in a movie. We had. What movie was it?
We had Suits for.
Suits, right?
Get better.
Suits. I was like, oh my god.
Power. It was crazy. I got 6 for it. I was like, oh man. But anyway, but to answer your question, what I was saying. It was such a relief, and such a pleasure. And such an anti-pop move to do something as deep as I could possibly do for the people that were the closest to me, and I felt so free doing it. So, but to answer your question, with Blue-Eyed Joy, it was just about 2 people starting out a life and having no clue of the depth of what their relationship really is to be, and it's this realization that diamonds don't form just overnight.
How long you started writing? If I remember the story correctly, you wrote that song to propose to Joy.
So I wrote Blue Eye, Blue Eye, Blue Eye, Blue. I had I had the da 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 da, and I didn't think it was that good, and I couldn't say that's the song for my wife because I didn't have a chorus. and I'm at the very end of Alpha Omega going, I need this song to be good. Because I can't do this for my wife. And it's like, okay. So I end up falling into this melodic trance of blue eye, blue eye, blue eye, blue eye. They're some of my favorite chords. They're just simple chords, but they're beautiful to me. And I was like, this is the prettiness that it needs to be, and this is the goosebumps I've been looking for. And I put the two songs together, the verse is the more powerful lyric, and the chorus has the more powerful melody with just repeating lyrical phrase. And I was so happy about that song because, and it's not a hit song or anything. I was just like, this exists. I have this now. When I'm dead and gone, it'll be here as long as the internet's here. And I'm so proud to have declared this for my wife. And, I feel like I'm a better father than I am a husband. And it's just because I'm learning.
I don't have kids.
Yeah.
It's probably easier to be a better father than a better husband.
We were talking earlier, because I just have a daughter now, and I realized as Mario and I were talking, I totally agreed with what he was saying. I'm learning what women are like from my daughter, and I'm going, and then I look at my wife, I'm like, you were this, and I was like, oh my God, I am clueless. So I feel I'm gonna be hopefully a better husband as time goes on. The fathering I was so ready for. I was an older brother. I was an older brother of significantly younger kids, 5 and 7. I guess that's significant enough. And they thought I raised them half with my half and half. And I always felt like I was a bad father then, because I was an 18-year-old punk, I didn't raise you. I hope I didn't raise you. Why'd you listen to me?
You're like, I didn't know what I was
Don't
doing.
listen to me. Like, what are you doing? And so when it was time to be a father, but what was cool is before my son showed up, there was this, in the womb, they did a little scan, and they thought there was a 1 in 10,000 chance that he'd have some problem.
I by the way, me trying to tell this story, and I'll not to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
But for those people that have heard me rant about you before, I've tried to do justice to the feelings that you talked about, getting that news and how that translated into the song. So with that,
yeah. So for me, I don't usually run to music for my emotional therapy. I actually try to just deal with it as honestly and authentically as possible, which is a hard thing to do and to learn. So I just took it, but I ended up on the piano somehow one of the days after it sank in, and I realized, okay, if this is what's going to happen, or if there's a chance, then I just kind of fell into the song. And the half the song is about, if there's a disability of some sort, then I'll love you any way you are.
But the other half,
has nothing.
Totally normal.
Yeah, just totally normal. The other half is just what I was, just lines that came to me that were the future I imagined that it would be like to be a father and to be there from your first steps and if you're running in the field, and oh my gosh, I have goosebumps even thinking about it. And it became just a song for future fatherhood and for future parenting and for just the overwhelming love for your child.
To me, I think I started to say this a little earlier, that's what makes Alpha Omega so special, is that you have songs that can be picked up by Suits. You have songs that could give you goosebumps just talking about it, just thinking about it. You have songs that have, towards the end, I'll always remember how you described the album to me. You said that you have samples of your, I believe that
my real life,
of your real life.
Oh yeah, all over
the home, and then there's the home video that actually has your son laughing in was that summer? Is that in Summer Days or is that in The Birth?
Yeah, I have a lot of clips where where we're actually getting married, my actual kids, me as a 2-year-old, that they had footage of, and then I took the audio out.
So you explained it to me that it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the first half the first part is biographical because it's your life.
It's almost the only thing that I say I misrepresented was my father was a great father, and I had this fighting all the time, but the internal tension that I had as a teenager was really a problem.
But I think.
But other than that,
we can all feel. I
Yeah.
mean,
But I wasn't meaning to criticize. I didn't mean it to be so. Sabotage is exactly how I felt at the worst moments of my teenage anger.
but I don't think that's an indictment of our parents, right?
Yeah, I hope
think
that. That's the
anyone
only thing I wanted to say.
listening to Sabotage can feel that and like,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're dealing with a real.
I
you're dealing
love
with a
that. I
real-
love
By the way, you love spending time with my dad as you are.
Yeah,
ready to do
I
so
hope
tonight.
yes,
right?
if he
By the way,
remembers, he's not gonna remember me.
Sam is leaving Oklahoma today, to go spend. He's taking a 4-hour drive with his family, to spend as a non-Jewish guy to spend Shabbat dinner with my dad. So that's not an indication of Sam's
I heard his
dedication to that.
speech. I heard his speech. I was like,
So-
this guy is
So
absurd.
being the son of a Freudian psychoanalyst, right?
Oh, that's you're I didn't even know all the things.
Oh, look, I mean, my dad,
Freudian.
my dad has grown past or around Freud's ideas and has taken a lot of different ideas from different analysts into his own practice. But my dad's base, the love that he found for psychoanalysis, was Freudian. Yeah, exactly. And so when you tell me that when you share angst, like in Sabotage,
Yeah.
I mean, that was like me going home to my. I mean, I remember growing up with turmoil or like feeling stress or like, for instance, one example. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and my parents got into a huge fight one night, an absolutely huge fight, over how many berries I was allowed to eat at dinner. And so you can have the best parents in the world, but the turmoil that I feel watching my parents fight over that. I mean, we can all feel. We can all look back in our lives and see Sabotage and not think that you're, denigrating how you were raised, but just dealing with the angst of growing up and putting it all into perspective.
My brother is still wounded by those years. He's still hesitant to see Sam really changed. Like it's been like 25 years, maybe not, maybe less. But I certainly I don't change. Oh,
That means my blood sugar is low.
Do you need?
It's all right. No, it's fine.
Let's get you some berries. How many? 2, 5?
Oh, damn. Well,
wanna do it?
I'm good.
We can chop and chop.
You know
You want
what?
some cherry soda?
I don't have enough sugar in it.
I know, that's good though. That was my point. That's what I liked about it.
We're good. We don't need to cut. I think that you go from Summer Days being fun, Sabotage being full of that turmoil.
Yeah.
Then you go to
A Great Escape.
Great Escape, but then you go Song to My Unborn Son, My Blue-Eyed Joy, and you get really personal. And then you end on like just the beautiful 3-song ending and that's probably what I'm actually most drawn to when I listen to Alpha Omega.
Is it Send Me to the River?
Send Me to the River.
Into is What a Life on that, or is it Send Me to the River into the?
What a Life.
Yeah, is that?
That's
Well, no, my dad thinks I wrote that, looking at his relationship with my mom. That's what he thinks, and I think I think it's right. But I was imagining like your eyes are the same since everything's changed except your eyes are the same, because you've gotten old. We've gotten old together. But anyway, sorry, it was just but I agree. Once Send Me to the River starts, I'm at it. Send me. I'm on the moon.
And what is it called? Is Requiem the final? It's like
It goes Requiem and then goes to Shine On.
Shine On. That's right.
But yeah.
Shine On's powerful way to end.
I was trying to because what's so funny is like how interested I am in this in the spiritual side of life, and it's all so realistic, that album. So it's
real.
It's just very real, which I like and of course drawn to and wrote entirely myself. And then I was like, wait a second, I have like a completely different thing to talk about. So I was like, I can't prove to you the afterlife is there. We can go into a great discussion about that for 2 hours, but I definitely have a logical and spiritual sense that there's a great case for that life does not end. Because there's lots of points there.
One of my favorite articles that I've read in the last couple of years said science now rethinks. It's some of the effect. I'm not.
Sure.
quoting,
It's all good.
but I'm paraphrasing. But science now believes that some hidden part of the brain may keep going far longer than they than they thought. And I called my rabbi and I said, "Are they trying so hard to not use the word soul? Is the word soul that dirty?
Yeah.
Some hidden part of the brain?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a hidden part of the brain? It's the soul."
I mean, and the big thing is, I think George Harrison put it very nicely for those who don't want to be associated with any religion or that is, I'm not a human being having a spiritual experience. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And once that sinks in, your world opens up. And I can't prove there's a soul. There's no science. They're not going to figure it out. They can't even figure out what energy is, which is a big point. My son came up to, he's a very smart kid. He goes, "Dad, what's energy?" And I said, "I could try to guess right now." And we've had a lot of fun, like quantum mechanics and all that. But let's look it up. So we looked it up. And one of the better answers that I liked was, scientists are currently not satisfied with the definition of energy. The current definition of energy. And I said, that's amazing, because if you, just in a physical reality, energy is the entire game. It's your heartbeat, it's your breath, it's the sun, it's your food, it's the life force that grows your food, the whole thing. If they say everything is energy, like Einstein and all that, they figured that out. So I realized you don't even know what it is. Which brings you back to humility and gratitude. And scientists, I love that science figures out what they figure out, but you don't even have the bedrock of your existence with a satisfied definition of that, which is the same thing as saying spirit. So like in Jewish and Christian, and I don't know that many traditions deeply, but I had an argument with a great friend of mine who was very conservative in his beliefs. And he was pretty certain about certain things.
Yeah, ignore it.
Barry's. He was pretty certain about certain things of, scripture and whatnot. So we were having. I thought it was fun, and he goes, okay. So I said, we're getting to this argument, and I say, okay, the only thing that's bugging me is your certainty, actually, because let me explain. I go, do you know, at the beginning of Genesis, what is God? God is a spirit that hovers over the waters, or whatever the translation. And then there's, in the Christian tradition, there's Jesus talks to the woman at the well and says, God is spirit. So he gives a hint. Okay, God is some sort of invisible power, spirit. We can't define spirit. So I said, okay, so could we both agree that spirit is the animator of everything you care about, from your kids to you, to your Bible, to its Genesis is spirit. The Big Bang, if you believe that, whatever you think started anything comes from this invisible power that is more powerful than anything. We call it spirit, and it's basically a question mark. Right. You have no idea what it is. So I said, so do we agree that spirit is at the bedrock of your spiritual existence and your fundamental, thoughts? And they said, yes. I go, okay, please describe to me in detail spirit. And I said, and he goes, no, I can tell you what it's not. And I said, no, tell me what it is.
Yeah.
And he goes, and it was stopped the conversation, ended the day, and I got an essay text message saying, well, I'm thinking about what you say, and it was a wonderful interaction for me. I don't know about them, but what I realized, science, with their inability to know what energy is as the bedrock of all things, and spiritual people not being able to truly define spirit, is in the same ballpark of why we should hold things a little lighter.
Although, if you want to get into some real heavy stuff,
what?
There's a book of Hasidic, I don't even know how to describe it right now, called basically Hasidic philosophy, but called Tanya.
Okay.
And it was written in the late 1700s. And you want answers to some of life's questions, it gets, if you're looking for some spiritual definitions, that's a place to start.
Well, I'm comfortable with a place to start, but I'm not comfortable with a place to finish.
Look,
no, but you know what?
But
this is the logic. This is the logic. That in the same ratio of our size to the universe is the same ratio of what we don't know. is my suggestion.
I hear you on that.
Okay.
By the way, I'm not suggesting it's an ultimate answer.
Okay, that's the only
But
thing
I'm
I get
saying
suspect.
But for me personally,
sure.
provides answers. And I think that, like, look, we're all on a search for our own answers.
Sure.
And when they but I think the cool part about meeting somebody like meeting you is when you meet somebody that's on that same same journey.
Sure.